today's host is our head of product, Fatima, who I work with very closely. And thank you all for submitting your questions. And I know one of the great things is that we want to learn about what is agentic document extraction. And we're going to walk you through that in a live demo today. And again, this is the perfect person who is our head of product. She will walk you through the defined details, use cases. Again, we encourage all questions. And with that, take it away, Fatima.
So I want to start by showing some of the examples that we have. Like as an examples, these are all open source examples, but these are very similar to the types of document that we have received. It has a lot of variability when it comes to real world documents. Like some of them can be photocopies, some of them are handwritten scanned documents, while others will have like complex tables which do not have grid lines, or even sometimes like mergings do not have grid lines across the table. So the solution that can help you with any kind of document related questions or insights downstream should work with this real world complexities and differences between the document. And it should be just one solution that can help solve all the problems around document extraction and parsing. And this is our goal, what we have set out to build with our ADE, and we have achieved that with parsing. And I will go through some of the use cases that we are able to do that with parsing. And we'll also take some questions in the middle at certain points in the presentation. Yeah. So the agenda will be to give a brief overview of like what our product is, what kind of APIs do we have, show you some of the very brief examples in the playground, and then give an orientation to like where our APIs are, where our documentation is, so that you can go ahead and start building after this webinar. I will also give more information about what is the current hosting solutions that we have available, the security related questions that you might have, and then support and subscription pricing that we have. Just a bit about me before we start. I'm a product manager here at Landing, leading the document extraction platform. So any kind of feedback or any kind of questions that you have, I should be able to answer here. Along with that, I have a computer vision background, which is very applicable to what we are building currently, where we have leveraged computer vision heavily to do a lot of like initial processing that helps accurately extract documents. And then I also have a data analyst background. One of the tasks that I was doing initially was to clean up the data that is used downstream by ML engineers, data scientists, and even business owners to make insights and decisions. And the amount of messiness that is involved in data was what I was dealing with. And documents in itself have the most messiness present because they could be, first, they could come in different formats. They could come in different structures. Some of them are structured or semi-structured with like same repeatable layouts, while others could be very free-flowing, very different layout, and like chunks of text. So I can understand the use cases that I'm dealing with, along with understanding it from a lot of users that we have interviewed over this past year on what is required to solve this problem. Yeah, so Landing's goal with document extraction, just giving a brief overview of what we are trying to do, is like take any kind of formats of data or document that they come in, including PDFs, images, spreadsheets, Word documents, or presentation, and then convert it into more structured formats, which you can use at different points. To gather automated insights, or you can get actionable like results from like whatever questions you're asking from the document, and then along with that reduce a lot of manual overhead and time required to get to that insights or answers that you're looking from these documents or scaled version of these documents. We are founded by Andrew Ng. And as you might know in data science space, that he's a well-known figure who has been champion about vision initially, and then agentic AI as very recently, we have leveraged all the teachings that he has along with data-centric AI so that to build this solution faster and also be able to improve on this solution much faster than the industry. Okay, so giving a brief overview, we are a API first product company, and all the use cases or features that you see in the API EU playground are mostly available via the API, so you can scale the work that you will need to do. Where our playground is useful to test and see the results, whereas the API can handle like a lot more scalable workload. Document extraction has multiple API layers, and all of them will help you structure the document in a certain format that might be desirable for you. And then most of our users like use this for two particular use cases, and that's where like I will go into more examples. One is field extraction. So if you have any structured data fields that are coming from mostly structured documents or even unstructured documents that you need to make a more automated decisions or even some manually reviewed decisions downstream, and you need to extract all of these fields like names, dates, amounts together from the documents, from individual documents or a combined set of documents, is where field extraction is useful. And then another use case that has come up in document extraction with the recent advancements in LLM is RAG, where you want to send a set of documents to the RAG pipeline and then answer or retrieve very context-aware questions, answers that are very grounded in the information that is present in the document and not really just from the internet. For the field extraction use cases, we see a bunch of more invoices, electricity bills, W2s, W9s, other forms or ID cards, where you have a very specific data that you want to extract from documents, and it is very repeatable. So something like if you have large collection of invoices, you want to extract invoice number, date, vendor, and total, and convert them into a more structured output. For RAG, you still get the insights from this document, but you're not like talking about converting these documents into more structured output. It's more of gathering information and gathering relevant information across all these documents. And so these are more unstructured documents that are more reliable towards unstructured formatting and have a very variable layout and have figures, tables, etc. So for example, you have reports or flowcharts related to one category or one topic, which you parse with us and then send it to an indexed vector database where it is stored. And based on any user queries in the chatbot or any other forms of serving the users, you answer based on the documents from that vector DB. Any questions so far? The next set of what I'm going to do is give you some features main features that ADE has, and then get into use cases.
I think we're okay for questions now.
Okay.
And just for the audience, I'm posting some helpful URLs that coincide with Fatima's presentation, and those URLs will also be in the follow-up emails. And then what we'll do is we'll take your questions that you submitted, and we'll kind of use that as a first format. But again, if you have additional questions during this live webinar, please drop them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure we address them during the session. Fatima, take it away.
Yeah. Okay, so the main one of the main features that document extraction has is it works completely out of box. There is no fine-tuning needed for your layout, your order of information in the document, and then the content itself inside the document. And because of that, it can start working immediately across the whole document sets that you have. And just get all the information out regardless of the layout. And this also will be able to handle any changing or varying layouts as you go forward and have more and more documents processed in production. Then it has one of the other things that document extraction supports is visual grounding, as we call it, which is for every text information that is extracted, we group it in a semantically connected box. So for example, here the date is connected with this date, but all the information related to the invoice that are present together are all connected together. The logo is detected in a separate box, and even though there is no grid lines around this table and the subtotal text and total is far away, it's all grouped together in one table chunk. Based on these chunks, we are able to output like the bounding box locations of these chunks on the page. So if you have any kind of audit trailing required downstream, either in field extraction where you have humans in loop, who are reviewing the values or extracted values, you can use these chunk references to get back to the original position in the original document and see how it is like how the results is, how the accuracy is for that particular chunk. You can also use this in like RAG applications such as chatbots. When you're answering the questions related to user's query, you can actually ground it back to the exact reference, exact page, exact location from which that query was found, building more confidence and traceability in the downstream products. And then we have, first we have parsing, which is extracting all the information from the document, but we also support more structured document extraction, including schema-based extraction, where you have like, where you can provide exact information that you're looking for, and we will extract that for you and visually ground it in the original location. And the solution that I'm going to present is supposed to work with the messiness that is involved, and that involves varied layouts. It can have multiple different layouts, multiple different ordering. It can be not necessarily a digital page. The accuracy is consistent across scanned pages, handwritten pages, multiple languages, cell phone photos, and even inconsistent formatting of the data. It also can handle rotated content, checkboxes or circled responses, which are similar to checkboxes, and it can detect a bunch of attestations, so like signatures, stamps, and can tell you if this is like signed or not signed based on the signature present. Okay, I am going to go deeper into some of the examples, and I do see one of the questions there about bounding boxes and the size of bounding boxes. Right now, we have the size of bounding boxes, and I will show you it in example, is at the chunk level where it is grouped. But for the table itself, every cell is grounded on top of the bigger table chunk. So you can go to the fine grain level in table and get to the exact number or the value that you're looking for inside the table too. Let me go to use cases and examples in the playground. I will start by going to LandingAI's website. And then as I start for free, I will go to Agentic Document Extraction, which will land me at va.landing.ai. And this will be my homepage to process document extraction use cases. We have a EU-supported, EU-hosted website as well, and I'm going to use it right now because my IP is set at US. I won't be able to get that button, but if you are in EU, you should get to that button, and you should be able to log into EU West, which is exactly the same playground and APIs as the US hosted version, just that this is GDPR compliant and hosted in EU. Once I'm here, you can see that like we support 3 main features or APIs. One is parsing, second is splitting, and then the third is extract. Parsing will just extract everything from the document, and then this will turn the documents into machine readable markdowns. Splitting, what it will do is if you have a file with multiple documents inside, for example, all the invoices that are combined together, and you want to separate the invoices and maybe you have receipts in there and you want to separate invoices and receipts, but also separate the invoices based on invoice number, you should be able to do that with splitting. And then we have extract, where you can extract, as I mentioned, like key fields like names, dates, and totals from the output of parse. Okay, I will go ahead and start by taking some examples and uploading them, starting with some of the examples from healthcare. I will start with a simple test report. I have uploaded the test report, and then it will start parsing this test report and trying to detect like all the layout elements that are present. So as it is parsing, I will give you the output. The parsing is done, but I will give you what it did. So it kind of went through the whole document and understood like what are the semantic groups of things connected together. For example, this phone number and information is right here, and they should all be combined. The title is a separate one. There is a table which does not have any kind of grid line, but just based on the structure, it's able to interpret that and then combine all of it together. Then it ordered the information. So if you see here, there is like a ordering present. The way we also output the values in the markdown, the logo, this logo is first, but then this is the second chunk, this is the third chunk, fourth and fifth, then it goes to seventh, then it doesn't go below and then keep going down. It understands that all of these values needs to be extracted first or like ordered correctly, and then it goes to the table chunk and then below. What this helps is that like if you have information that is relevant across chunks and maybe the context is not maintained, but the ordering is so strong that like if you ask questions related to like multiple chunks, it should be fairly be able to answer you those questions across chunks much more effectively. Then we also like do classification and then answer like outputting the actual value. So like we have some chunk classes, like for example, table, scan codes, logo, text, and attestation and figures. And of course, marginal. And this will help us like extract the information in the expected manner. For example, in logo, you just want to get the logo out, maybe a small description about the logo, whereas some of the figures, you want to extract the whole figure and then summarize the figures, but you don't want the summaries for text and tables, you just want the content that is present. So like the model is smart enough to decide which content should be classified as what, and then like what should be extracted from each content. And it should be able to extract and detect all of it and extract that. It also extracted the document, the table itself, and drew like got every cell correct. Now I will go to chat. Chat is the feature that is not available via the API, but it's just helpful for you to like demo this or like get an understanding of how our system or all the APIs work for us. So I'm going to maybe ask a simple question like name of patient. And it will give me from context that the name of patient is Yashim Patel, and then it will give me a visual reference. This is something that you can build on your own with our parsing output. And you will get the parsing location of the patient name. Let me ask a question for inside the table so that we can see the table grounding. Reference value for RBC count. And let's see if it is able to do it. So it gave me the reference value for RBC count, which is 4.5 to 5.5. And it also gave me the unit, which is connected inside the table. So it's not just looking at that table cell, but all across the table and across the document to answer the question. But then it gave me the grounding exactly where which table cell this information came from. Even though there is no grid lines, it's able to figure out the exact grounding about for the table cell and then provide that with you. You should also be able to build that using our parsing output. Cool. I will show some of the other more insurance and healthcare related use cases. For example, this is a document which has a lot of handwritten text, and checkboxes, and it's able to go across the document and then extract those information too. If you have a checkboxes, we do like yes, and then about square bracket to answer if it is checked or not checked. Yeah. If you have circles, it still converts them into checkboxes and then answers the question X and no X. Cool. Then I go to another use case, which has more checkboxes, and should be able to detect all of these checkboxes as well. And I will get the same answer. Like if I have any questions in the chat related to this, I should be able to also answer that. And it says the answer is here, and it should be able to detect the chunk where this answer is coming from. We also have a specific chunk type for card format, or like any kind of ID cards, where we just extract all the information, but also give some context around if there is any kind of figure present. It's able to like detect all the information, but also like one thing I wanted to highlight, there is like a very hard to read date here, which I didn't even look for before reading the output, and I was surprised where this is coming from. And you can see it is also extracted in the output, so it can handle like a lot of like maybe complicated cases around the text itself, along with just the layout and the ordering on top. Now I will go into description about splitting. And I will start with like a use case that I have already uploaded to get an understanding. Sorry, I will start over. So this is another document which I have combined by myself, where there is just the first page is like a report or like a research report. The second page is a denial notice for this patient. Then after the denial notice, we have like a physical therapy intake form. And then lastly, we have the test results for a patient. And these are just some things that I have combined. And I'm going to run splitting on top of our parsed results. So like we take this parsed output and then go to split. In splitting, we have different ways to split. One is that once the parsing is completed, we provide like suggested split types. This is just to get you started quickly. You can change around everything around this. Then you can write a rule prompt. If this is not satisfactory, if you just want to get started quickly, you can just say something like split test results and patient intake forms, or something like that. And if you already want to build this all from the scratch and you don't want to take assistance from the suggestions, you can also start from scratch. I'll just like start with suggestion and start with the suggestion and then run the splitting. While it is running, this is the classes that I have in the suggestion. One is medical journal article, then healthcare denial notice or denial letter, then physical therapy intake form, and then laboratory test report. Inside each class, I have one more category or information that I can define, and these are called identifiers. And the identifiers are like if you have multiple of test reports together in the document and you want to separate it based on some other specific information on that test report, it should be able to like enter or add that information and separate the test reports out based on that particular information. Right now, because I have just like one cases for each, it really is not helpful. But like something like here, I have registration number as the separator, even though the registration, in this case, the registration number is present in both of these pages, and it's able to combine this together. even though registration number will not be present on the second or third page, it's just still be able to combine the pages together based on the context and like the similarity between the pages in another real world example or scenarios. We also have uncategorized categories. So like we don't try to push the pages into one of the classification that is existing. You can have an uncategorized category where the document or page will be unclassified and not part of any categories. This could mean an intentional, like there is another page that is not part of any categories at all, truly. Or it could be that like it's not getting classified, where you can change these descriptions about each description or document class to update the description and then make sure that the document is categorized correctly. So it will help you improve the use case further so it is more reliable. I will go to another use case. Let me start by uploading invoices and get an example from financial data. So these are just edited bunch of invoices from different companies. This is from Atlassian, this is from Figma, and then this is from Blue Shield. And there are some differences or weirdness for each invoice. For example, this invoice number for Atlassian is not present on the second page at all. So we can test it out if it is still combined with the first page because it's the same invoice from Atlassian. The other thing is from Figma. This invoice looks simple, but it has like a complicated table and it's just one page of invoice. And then again, in Blue Shield, the tables are really complicated. So here, for example, like it's able to detect and merge the cells that are across different cells. And then it's also able to identify different combinations for the rows itself based on the top column. Okay, I will try the split to test about the Atlassian invoice, which is all to get without invoice number. And I'm not really liking the suggestion here. I would just like invoice split by invoice number. So I will just type in that here and then generate the split rules. So it just followed my instruction and then generated a document class called invoices and then identifier as invoice number. And it split the invoices into 3 categories. One is the Atlassian invoice, which has the invoice number, this invoice number as 38493849. It outputted that invoice number, and then it said first and second page are part of the same category. Even though there is no invoice number that is present on the second page, it still was able to connect it to the first page based on the context and the ordering of the pages. I will then go into the third API that we have, which is the extract API. This extract API, I will go into showing some of the use cases. I will start with like a very simple example use case where you have a simple invoice and you want to extract certain information from this invoice. And only here we are highlighting the category, like the areas where the information is extracted from. And something simple as like a company information. I have the insurance company name, the home office location, the recipient name, recipient address, and then payment address. All of this are related to this invoice, and it's able to extract the information, first of all, from any chunk type. So this is part of a logo, but it's still able to extract that information and highlight the areas where this information is coming from. And if I click on it, it will go to the specific chunk where this information will be coming from. I will go into one another example, which is a more complicated extract to explain more around this. And this is a European accident form, which has a bunch of chunks around different categories. It also has a lot of ordering involved. So, for example, the the document starts with having all this information common across both of the vehicles that are involved in the accident. But in this columnar situation, the vehicle A information is all written down in a vertical. Then this is more common questions, and then vehicle B information is all written down in another vertical. Based on that, the information, for example, the insurance company name, here there is no mention of like this is for vehicle A for that particular chunk, but because of our very strong ordering, it will be able to associate that information to vehicle A and then answer you for that question. So if I go to split, I have built the schema for split already, and you can start from scratch too. Okay, so here as well, I have the same kind of suggested fields so that I can start working with the existing fields that we have as suggestions. I can write a schema prompt to extract only particular things from this document, and then also either upload a JSON schema if I already have it, or start from scratch. And I will start from writing a schema because I want to only specifically focus on certain information. One thing I will want to extract is that the insurance company name for vehicle A and B. Let's think about maybe something else, country where the accident happened. And I will maybe take one of the checkboxes. Was there any injury? Like the checkbox around injury, and then generate a schema based on that. So it gave me a very simple schema where it has the insurance company name for vehicle A, insurance company name for vehicle B, the country of accident, and then any injury that is present. And I will run the schema. It extracted the information. It also highlighted all the chunks where this information is coming from. And as I mentioned, even though there is no context around vehicle A in this particular chunk, because of the layout, extraction, and ordering, it's still able to extract that information and relate it back to the exact chunk for both vehicle A and vehicle B. Then we extract the country name of accident as CH. And then if there is any injury present, based on the checkboxes, if there is no injury present. And then now I wanted to go into more complications about the schema. One thing that is there is we support a lot of data types. So if you want to constrain the output more strongly to make it more structured for your downstream use cases, you can do that. And so, for example, the country of accident, users can write any answers in their country of accidents. This person has written the country code. Someone can write the whole name. Someone can write a half name. And you want to standardize it across users. So you can use the field called enum field, where it gives you dedicated options from the start, and then you can extract based on that. So like, for example, I can type Switzerland, France, Germany, to give the options and then force it to answer based on these options and not what the users have written, but from the context, force it to answer in that. The other thing that we have is injury present. It can be an answer, no written down, yes, but, or any kind of this kind of like very variable answers that could be written down. And you can force it to a Boolean data type where the no and yes can be either like true or false, and it has to answer in only those cases. Once I run the schema, it should be able to like work in our constraints and reply or respond with those constraints. So country of accident, it's selected Switzerland, and then injury present, it's selected as false because there is no as a checkbox. Yeah, so you should be able to play around with our split and extract APIs along with parse and start building on the playground. But once you are ready, you can use the code here with the schemas already loaded, whatever you built on the UI, that you can directly start using with library or the API. I will pause for a while if there is any questions or anything before going just a bit into the API use cases.
Yes, we have a question.
Yeah.
Is this split logical, or has the system physically split at this stage?
Not sure if I get the question, but let me try to answer that by showing you the output. So we have like splits, and then classification and an identifier, and the pages. We output just the JSON pages, and the markdown associated with each page here, rather than combining it all together in the output. In terms of like the API, I will give a very quick overview of this. But this is free to get started. We have about 1,000 credits, which should be able to parse about 300 pages or like a bit less if you're using extract and split. But you should get started with both Playground and APIs for free. Parsing API, this is the first API which extracts everything. It will take any input, PDF, Excel, or any kind of like document input, and then output a markdown and a JSON. JSON has like all the chunk reference, bounding boxes, etc., whereas the markdown has more of like clean structured answer, clean unstructured machine readable data, which has like chunk tagging. So you could be able to reference the markdown chunks to the JSON chunk. So I would encourage you to explore around with our outputs for parsing to understand how you can actually build the visual grounding on top. Then we have the split API. It takes any kind of markdown as an input, and a split schema, and provides the output JSON, which has like the pages and the markdown itself for the pages. So you can be able to like get the structured outputs of like all the documents that are contained inside the file. And then this input can either be a markdown from anywhere, or primarily the output markdown from the parse API. The parse API markdown already has like page references inside the markdown, so it should be able to split it based on those page references and give you the split output. And then lastly, we have the extract API, which also takes input of a markdown and an extraction schema, and outputs a JSON with only exact field values. It doesn't output markdown in the output JSON, but just the exact field values based on the data types as I showed before. This markdown can either come directly from parsing if you have no splitting use cases, or it can come from the markdown that is outputted from the split API for only particular pages. So if you only want to extract information from invoices, you should be able to like build a pipeline on your side to get the markdowns from the split, which are related to the invoices, and then send those markdowns to extract with the extraction schemas to get field extractions outputs. Now going into deployment options, we have the cloud options, which is the preferred, like easy to get started and the fastest time to get to a value and an understanding of this, if this is right for your use case, is like a cloud solution. Our cloud solution is super secure. We are constantly updating our compliance, but we already have the basics compliance all present. For the EU cloud, we have GDPR compliance. We are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant across both of the platforms. We also have HIPAA and BAA compliant processing in our subscription plans, and I will go into plans very quickly. We also have zero data retention which is required for HIPAA, or for like not even unrelated to HIPAA in our subscription tiers, which will mean that we don't store any kind of documents that we are sending to us, any results that our system is generating, or even like any schemas or more information or settings that you are sending to us along with the documents. We have continuous managed updates. We have model versioning across all of our APIs. So once you have started processing with one model, you can choose to get the latest upgrades immediately, or you can start with a more dated version if you want more reliability or like same behavior in production. And we won't send upgrades, so you can manually upgrade to the newest or latest version. It also auto scales and can handle bursting, and also like fastest deploy. You can get to deployment super fast because the APIs are like easy and simple to use. We also have security requirements around the trust portal, and I will go into them. From our playground, you can go into documentation. This is all the documentation around the APIs, but you can also find security documentation around European Union. And then you can also find more information about our trust center, which has all the information about our compliance, our security and compliance policies, and even zero data retention. What does it mean to have zero data retention in your playground and API? If this still doesn't work for you, we do have other private deployment options, and one of them is VPL, so like virtually managed private link. This is something that you can deploy. It's a single tenant SaaS platform with AWS currently, where Landing manages the deployment, but it is separated out and only just for you. And then we have the most advanced option, which is VPC, which is fully managed by you. And we do have availability across the major cloud providers, AWS, Azure, and GCP. This would be a bit slower to deploy. Maybe takes up to like 1 month to 2 months for deployment. And so I will encourage you to get started with like maybe examples in the playground to get to the value faster. While the VPC conversation is going on. For VPC conversations, you can contact our sales to get more information around it. Yeah. Because just a brief information about VPC, this is customer provisioned resources. And it involves LandingAI foundation models that are for parsing, extraction, and everything. And we do use LLMs as like a checker or knowledge, like getting knowledge in some of the aspects of our pipeline. But the platform or the models are robust enough to work with any kind of LLMs across your VPCs. And so you should be good with any LLMs that is supported in your VPCs or on your cloud. Cool. Any questions so far?
I think this would be a great time to address some of the pre-registration questions.
Yeah.
Let's start off with, I think, a really important one. From your perspective as head of product, what do you see as maybe the top 2 or 3 business benefits / return on investment for using ADE within organizations?
Yeah. It's across use cases, and we have seen, it's quite interesting that we have seen so many different use cases across industries and across use cases across users in the same industry too. I will start by like just going step by step in the flow rather than like what is the top most. One of the most important things in the start, like when you have like a lot of raw documents, millions of pages, users are parsing those pages and just building a search on top of it. So you can find the right document or right page or right information very quickly with the parsing results. This can also imply a lot of RAG applications being built on top of our solution, such as like simple chatbots, answering medical specific questions, or maybe more finance or law related questions that are specific to that enterprise or to that domain of knowledge. And then lastly, we have the structured field extraction one, right? And this is coming from like large enterprises who have a lot of volume to process. And make decisions on this volume. And this can involve mortgage applications, insurance underwriting, or claim processing, and even like financial invoice reconciliation or other fields too.
Excellent. Let's address this question. Now that LandingAI is the OCR space, where do you see our biggest differentiators for ADE are with it as we bring our product to market, or now that we're in market?
Yeah. So I would answer it in 2 different ways. One is that parsing compares with OCR, or it just like extracts everything, which is very similar to what OCR does. So it is a comparable solution. And then the other is like, what is the whole domain that we have, or whole dynamics that we have around our product offerings. but answering the comparison to OCR for parsing or ADE parsing itself. We don't work like OCR, and then I will give you some of the very specific examples of like what I mean by saying that. And going back very quickly. So for example, taking our old accident report form, if you have an OCR, which is going across the sentences, it will start with date of accident and then keep going in the same line, then going to the next line. And so it won't intelligently chunk information and keep the relevant information together across all the layout sets. Sometimes the information is from top and bottom, sometimes it's like far away on side to side. So the layout and ordering is the things that help us extract the information more accurately. The second thing is enrichment of that information. So if you have a figure, we won't just try to transcribe the answers for you. We will summarize the answers for your figures. We do that for signatures differently. For example, in signatures, you can say it is signed, if it is readable signature, etc. So all this enrichment helps us make the parsing results much more reliable and accurate for any downstream task. And if you have the foundations correct, everything on top will be more accurate than using the OCR. And then the second thing is not only the parsing, we have a whole ecosystem of like APIs and use cases that are built on top of parsing to support the different use cases directly. Any other questions?
Let me expand on that one. You may have already answered this when you talk about APIs. So we had a broad question around platform in general and integration with other apps. Does that one make sense?
Sorry, what is the question?
So the question was platform in general and integration with other apps. So I was wondering if that would dovetail your integration with other APIs.
Oh, yes. So because it's very flexible processing, we have the API directly. It should work with like any connectors. We support like connecting directly to document sources so that you can get the documents for them and have zero data retention parse jobs. So you don't have to send the documents for in our pipeline or for parse job processing. You can also send the URLs, connectors to doc source, wherever it is, like S3, Azure, etc. But because this is an API related product, it should be able to connect with any other applications which has an API output.
Excellent. And then we'll take this final one. And this is kind of a broad one. Learning from practical experiences with ADE would have been maybe one or two challenges around ADE implementation, and then what were some of the lessons learned from our use cases or customers, if that one makes sense?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think the main challenge that we have seen users facing before ADE implementation is just the layout and content differences across their use cases. And so like getting all of this to work with like evaluating on all of this to make sure that the any kind of document extraction has the best performance on the layout, the differences in layout, curating this like documents across this like domains inside the enterprise, and then actually relying on testing is the main challenge that I see with implementations around document extraction and specifically ADE, because relying on like open source benchmarks are not really helpful for like the domain specific use cases that the users have. And so like they kind of get a very different output when it is deployed to production, when a solution is deployed to production. So like how do you actually test and make sure that the accuracy is satisfactory over your use cases is one of the challenges that we see a lot of users face.
Excellent. And we have a question here. If you want to drop in the Q&A, are there any plans to get DATC, DTAC compliance for UK healthcare markets? Also, the Gen AI chat could be classed as a medical device if it would be positioned as a market as making a clinical pathway more efficient. As an example, GP appointment, general practitioner appointment. This would be a separate compliance to DTAC's accreditation mentioned above. How do you think this would be addressed for the UK market? or is there anything
Yeah,
you want to take offline? Go ahead.
yeah, that's actually a good question. So we are trying to work on like the major compliances to start with. As mentioned, like we went through SOC 2, HIPAA, and then as we are progressing, we are making more compliance possible. We currently do not have like in the next month, we don't have plans for getting the compliance, but it is on our backlog to get the compliances which are more country specific, including UK and France, which has more specific use case compliances around their healthcare market. The chatbot which we have on the UI is not really available as the API. It's something that you can build on top of your parsing results, which you can parse with like zero data retention and HIPAA compliances. But it's something that we don't provide directly as an API. It's something that you can play around to see what is art of the possible from this API. So it will be something that is built on your side, rather than like something that you can use from us directly.
Excellent. With 3 minutes left, any closing comments?
Yeah, for the UK market, like reach out to us. We have lot of customers in the UK and would like to understand your use case and see how we can help with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Fatima, for a great presentation. Again, thank you for your time. Have a great evening, afternoon, and morning.